So it is 7 o'clock, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. Good evening, it's 7 PM. I'd like to call the August 16th meeting, the Newbury Conservation Commission, to order. Sam, can you read the remote opening meeting law preamble and take a roll call of the members present?
I can. All right.
And I'm so happy we're dumping that on you, by the way. I know it might be a complaint to HR, but
It's not too bad. All right, so as a preliminary matter, my name is Samantha Holt, Town Staff Conservation Agent for the Newbury Conservation Commission. Permit me to confirm that all members are present and can hear me. Bob Connors.
present, I can hear you.
And Mary is not here yet. Diane O'Brien,
Yes.
TJ Conti,
Yes.
Pete Pecos,
Hello.
Dan Streeter,
Yes.
and Brad Duffin. I think you're muted, Brad.
Present.
There you are.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
All right. Good evening. This August 16th, 2022 open meeting of the Newbury Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with the act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, which extends the governor's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law until March 31st, 2023. This order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location and allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with deliberations of the meeting. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video and/or telephone conference, and the recording will be available on the Newbury Access YouTube channel. Meeting materials were posted to the commission or were provided to the commission members prior to meeting for review and were posted on the Conservation Commission webpage for public access. Applicants or their representatives may be called upon to speak, and if needed, share information on the screen. Please state your intention after you have been called. Before we turn to the first item on the agenda, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After speakers conclude their remarks, I will go down the list of commission members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, for all attendees except commission members and staff, please remember to mute your computer using the mute button or your phone using *6 to toggle mute and unmute. When you are not speaking, please use earbuds or earphones with tablets and cell phones. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. Please be aware that the video participants can see you and that you should take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. For any response, please wait until I yield the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If commission members wish to engage in discussion with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself when you wish to speak. For public comment, there will be an opportunity for public comment and questions during public hearings. After commission members have spoken, we will afford the public an opportunity to comment and/or ask questions as follows. I will see questions and comments through the Zoom raise hand function. For video conference participants, to raise your hand, hover over the bottom of the Zoom window below the gallery and click the yellow hand that appears. If you do not see a yellow hand, click on the participants button and a list of participants will open and display on the right. At the bottom of the participant area, you will see an option to click on a raise hand button. Please ensure your name is fully and correctly displayed on the participant list. You may rename yourself by using the more function next to your name. For telephone participants, to raise your hand in a Zoom meeting, hit *9 on your phone's keypad. We will then allow questions and comments from members of the public who have raised their hands in the order in which they are listed, which is determined by the order in which people click on the raise hand function. Each participant will be called upon to provide his or her name and address and then ask a question or make a comment. We will afford the applicant or participant or his or her representative the opportunity to reply. Your hand will be lowered when you have been given the floor for your questions. We then continue down the list of those in the raised hand column and again affords participant, applicant, or representative an opportunity to speak. Please note that the chat feature has been disabled for this meeting. Please also note that everyone is expected to conduct themselves in the same manner that they would in an in-person meeting. Any disruptions will be addressed once by the chair and should be acknowledged by the disruptor. Any further disruptions will result in complete removal from the meeting with no readmittance. Vulgar or obscene actions or comments will result in immediate removal from the meeting with no readmittance. And finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. Whew.
Thank you, Sam. So Sam, we have upcoming meeting dates. August 30th is our bylaw workshop. And our next meeting for matters before the commission will be September 20th. Sam, I'm looking at the agenda. Do we have minutes available for approval for August 2nd? I thought we do not, as I
We do
recall.
not have those, and I know,
Okay.
as I meant to. take
No,
that.
no problem at all. All right, let's move on to 20th Street. It's for a,
Certificate of compliance.
okay, certificate of compliance. And it was, so do we have someone presenting, or are you going to be presenting that one?
I do not see anybody, I don't see the owner who requested it, so I can go through that one.
Yeah, if you could provide a project overview, Sam,
yeah,
that would be
so
great. Thank you.
So it was a certificate of compliance requested for the order of conditions that was issued September 23rd, 2020. And it was for the demolition and reconstruction of the house. There was some planting mitigation that was required for it that was done very recently. I believe it was done sometime in the last couple of months. And I know typically there is a period that, we like to see it go through 2 full growing seasons before issuing a complete certificate. The request was for a complete certificate. The house was built. It appears that that has all been done in compliance. The planting has been completed. Like I said, it was very recent. It sounds like it may have been done sometime early summer, late spring. It's a little dry and crispy right now. When I went out there today, it doesn't look super great, but it may come back later on. So it would be up to your discretion as the commission to determine whether you're going to issue a complete or partial certificate for that, partial pending the plant mitigation timeframe. But other than that, everything, the plantings were done, everything was done in compliance. It's just the timeframe for the plantings right now that's kind of up in the air.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the certificate of compliance.
Brad, hold off. Let's just go around. What I wanted to do, just go around and see if we have any questions first, if I may. Brad, do you have any questions? Apparently not.
No, I walk by that property every day, walking the
Yeah.
dog, and
No,
I'm very
it does look
familiar with
good.
it.
Okay. Diane, any questions?
No, I just remembered we had done, didn't we do one of these a couple meetings ago? And did we do a partial then? Because we wanted to see.
For Plumbush Downs, we did a partial certificate pending the 2 full growing seasons.
So just as far as consistency goes, what do you think? I don't, it's
I
something to
agree with
consider.
that, Diane.
Okay. Dan,
I
how about
also
you?
agree with that.
Yeah, Dan, any
Yeah, I mean-
comments or,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've even gone through one growing season, so
right,
it does not seem reasonable to me. That's the typical procedure is to, make sure there's survival of a certain amount of the plantings.
sure. Okay, well, it sounds like the will of the commission is to consider a partial certificate of compliance. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to amend my motion and make it a partial certificate of compliance pending the completion of 2 full growing seasons.
Second.
Okay, second. Okay, any further discussion?
Does that condition require them to replace any plantings that do not survive, or just they have to go through the 2 seasons?
So it has to go through the two full seasons. I would have to check if there's a survivability percentage in the order of conditions. Generally speaking, though, if a significant amount of it does not survive after those 2 growing seasons, they would have to replant it.
So that doesn't need to be spelt out.
Right, yeah.
Well, it's going to be subject to whatever is in the original order,
Correct.
whatever it calls out.
Okay.
All right, so hearing no further questions, I'm going to do a roll call vote. All those in favor
Sorry, did we
say,
get a second?
yes, we did.
Okay.
Brad made the motion, TJ seconded, as I recall.
Yep.
Okay, so roll call vote, Brad,
Affirmative.
Diane,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes,
TJ,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Sam, do you have any other questions on this one? You're good with
I
this
do
one?
not.
Yeah. Pete, I apologize. We just didn't get down to you to see if you had any questions on this one. I'll never do that again.
No worries.
Okay, thanks. All right, so now moving on. So under our new format, we at 7:15, we'll start looking at RDAs. So we're a little bit early. Sam, why don't we use this time to go over a couple of the your fine efforts on schedule and on this new reformatted agenda and our complaint form.
Okay, so give me 1 second. So we do have, the complaint form should go a little bit faster, so we can throw that one up real quick first. If it opens, there we go. All right, so this is the complaint form. I've gotten several complaints recently about a laundry list of things, and Bob actually brought it to my attention that it may be worth it to have a complaint form. And I actually was asked by the town administrator as well if we had one shortly after that. So it seemed like a really good time to start that. So I found a couple different people, a couple different towns that had them. And this seemed to be the general idea of what they had on it. It's just 1 page, but it's a pretty well encompassed list of things. So one of the big things that I would like to note is that a lot of times Inspectional Services Department here in Newbury gets a lot of anonymous letters. We do not want anonymous letters anymore. It makes it very hard to track issues. It makes it very hard to get more information if it's needed. If we can't see a violation from the road or from town property, I can't just go out wandering onto people's property for things. So getting the information of the people making complaints is a very important part of this, and it is required. That is what will push complaints through a lot faster for me. So complainant information, contact, address, whole 9 yards, violation and complaint information, address or location, if it's known the property owner, if anyone has seen who is committing the act in question, whether it's a homeowner, renter, contractor, etc. Include the name of companies if it's seen, description of the issue, character of the resource areas. If known, I know that a lot of people might not know off the top of their head what the resource areas are, and that's fine. And then any signs that are at the location. For instance, if someone sees a DEP file number sign, it would be great to know if there's already a project ongoing, and it may be just an issue of, it doesn't look like they're doing something correctly. Date when it was first witnessed, frequency, if it's happening all the time or just once and twice, if the area is visible from the road or from town property. If not, will they allow the agent to view the area from their property? And if not, again, I'd like them to suggest a area where I can see it that's off private property, that I can see what's going on to actually investigate it. And then my little note at the end that all of the information is required, as much that's known. Again, I realize that not everything is going to be known. Resource areas, who's doing it, things like that. But that name and contact information will not be shared with the violator or any other member of the public. It's all confidential. The information may be shared with other town personnel, such as the planning department, zoning board, building commissioner, people like that. If it's an issue that needs to go to other people, if it's necessary. And then my contact information so that people can send this to me.
So Sam, excellent, excellent work. One comment, if go right back to the bottom again, if you could, under the please note, what you're going to find though, if someone does a FOIA request, every complaint becomes a public record, and would be able to be shared with someone on a FOIA
Right, so
request.
it's more of, so it does technically go into public record, but I'm not gonna like go out of my way to go up to someone's house and say, hey, Joe down the street said that you're doing this, you know,
Yeah,
it'll go into the file so they can see it technically, but I'm not gonna go like sending this, you know, or walk up to someone's door and say, this is a note that I got from someone down the street from you saying
yeah.
all of this stuff,
So I'm gonna make it, I'm
not
gonna make us, Sam, I'm gonna make a suggestion. I would strike that entire sentence because saying we will not be shared would seem to be in conflict with the FOIA request. Now, if you run that by your town administrator or town council and that's okay, I'm fine, but I don't want to create a controversy where someone is doing a FOIA request and we, you know, if you're going to file a complaint, it's a complaint.
Okay.
That's just my thoughts on that, but any other thoughts, team? Want to go around? Brad, any comments? You're on mute, Brad, if you have a
No,
comment.
I'm good.
Okay, thanks, Brad. Diane?
No, I mean, talk to town council because they'd probably be able to add something. If you feel strong about that, Sam, that you want to tell them that you're not going to voluntarily share it, you could maybe add something along the lines of, you know, subject to Massachusetts laws or federal Massachusetts statute or something. I'm
Okay.
sure there's an extra little provision you can put on it if you feel strongly about it.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Dan?
That looks good.
Okay, thanks, Dan. TJ?
All set.
Pete?
Yep, just follow guidance of council.
Okay, and well, Sam, thank you for doing that. I think that's going to minimize your running around, and if a complaint reaches the level, it should be in writing. All right, we are now beyond 7:15. So request for determ RDAs, 3 exit away for work to maintain sand encroaching on house. Sam, can you provide an overview of what your thoughts are on this one?
So this is the applicant that is not here. So I'm gonna share this one. So he has got, and these are kind of hard to see. Let's see if I can shrink these down a little bit. So I guess this picture is probably one of the better ones. So this is his house right here, and he's just got sand. He's actually got kind of, so there's this big slope. This is looking from back towards the slope from his house. So he's got this pretty significant slope right here out behind it. And the sand is just naturally sort of starting to come down and encroach on the house. So what he is looking to do is this planter that's here, actually, he is planning on, he's planning on putting the vegetation that would have to be pulled up. He's planning on putting that in the planters so that he can then replace it back onto the slope afterwards. He is going to have a small bobcat out there to move the sand, but he just wants to pull the sand off of the house here, just so that he can kind of get that walkway back on the backside of the house without having to trample all over the vegetation and everything. And he's getting all the vegetation that is starting to get up very close to the house. And he is planning on eventually re-shingling his house, so he doesn't want the sand to be disturbed and the vegetation to be disturbed when he does the re-shingling on the house. So he's just looking to not remove anything. He's just looking to pull it back a little bit, push it back up towards this slope, and then replace all of the vegetation that gets pulled up. And he did say that he is more than willing to accept a condition that if anything doesn't make it, or if there's any issues with the survivability of the vegetation that he relocates, that he would be more than willing to replant the vegetation, or replace it rather, with new plugs. So this is the slope that he has out back there. It's really, I mean, it doesn't, he's not really planning on doing anything absolutely insane. Just pulling the sand right back a few feet from the house over here.
So it sounds like he's planning on using the width of a Bobcat bucket to remove some wind-driven sand from his house. Is
Right,
that, okay.
right. With
Yeah,
no removal, he doesn't want to take anything off of his property, just relocate it, push back a little bit. Just so that he can get access to the shingles down here without having to do an outrageous amount of disturbance to the vegetation.
right. Sammy, what's your recommendation on this one, Sam? Can we limit the RDA or
Yeah,
condition the RDA?
yeah, I would say that we could condition it, just to say that, you know, maybe to put the condition on that no more than the width of a Bobcat, for relocated sand, and that if, you know, the slope is, as you can see, it is pretty well vegetated already. So maybe even to just say that if less than 50% or more than 50% of the relocated vegetation doesn't survive, that he would have to replace it.
Okay,
But it's
Alright,
not, even the stuff that would be moved is like maybe a couple square feet
sure.
of vegetation.
All right, thank you, Sam. Questions? Brad, any questions on this one?
It's pretty straightforward to me.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Diane, any questions?
So Sam, it's just on that one side, because the RDA didn't say how much sand or anything was being moved.
Yeah, it's just on the side, and oops. So it's just on the side here. There is part of the house, and I don't think there's a photo of it, but some of the house does extend more, you know, over to what would be the left of where this picture is, but there's nothing, it's all like patio there that's already clean. So he just wants to clear off up to the patio that's already existing.
We
So
kind
it's
of put that,
like 10 feet. Bobcat's probably about like 4 or 5 width, so maybe 40 square feet of moving back. And he's not going to dig down for it, just down to the base of the shingles. So maybe 4 or 5 inches, 6 tops, I would say. It doesn't really go down too far.
would it be too complex to put some sort of condition in there that it's just on that one side, so it doesn't become a whole clearing?
I don't think so. No, I don't think
I don't recall that being anywhere in the RDA that he said exactly where it was gonna be, just that they're gonna clear sand.
Yeah, that was, so, that, I believe that was the intention of the pictures. I did go out and meet with him before he submitted this, just to kind of tell him, like, this is the stuff that we're gonna need to see for it. And this was the only space that he indicated wanting to move sand off of, because it's the only place where it's really encroaching on where the shingles are. But yeah, I don't think it would be too complicated to add a condition that it would only be on that section of the house.
You could reference the picture, I guess, too, if
Right.
you wanted to. So the bucket of a Bobcat is typically about 72 inches. It's typically about 6 feet wide, just for
Okay.
perspective. Okay, Dan, any questions?
Other than what's already been raised about where exactly the sand is being moved from, I'm kind of wondering how that sand is going to be placed and where. And, you know, it may be a case of there's places to put it, but there may be vegetation underneath that. And
So
so
I
on.
believe what his plan is to spread it across the kind of whole area, so that it doesn't bury too much of the existing vegetation. And there's, I mean, like this area right here, I don't know if you can see the cursor there. But this whole area right here is pretty bare, so, you know, maybe a little bit more there wouldn't be quite as big of an issue, but I believe his plan is to spread it enough so that it doesn't bury the existing vegetation. And I think that, you know, just to throw that in as a condition too, that it can't just be dumped in one big pile, that it has to be spread across the slope would be, and even to say that it has to be spread across the slope with, you know, hand tools or something.
Well, or just not going to impede the growth of existing
Right.
vegetation is probably the simpler way of addressing that. Dan, anything else?
Well, not, not specifically. I just, it's just kind of, where's this stuff going, and, what do we have? We have anything in writing, or do we need a condition for that, or, that sort of question. I'm good.
Okay, thanks, Dan. TJ, any questions?
No, I'd probably echo Dan's. I wish it was a little bit more specific. But I guess we can write that in as far as just to the end of the house and, spread so that it doesn't impede the other growth, and maybe even replant if it does. I don't know if they're gonna do it with hand tools, or the Bobcat going up there probably would do more damage than it would be solving. So probably with the hand tools.
Okay, thank you, TJ. Pete, any comments?
Yeah, I would echo the not using a machine to do it, but it be spread gingerly and carefully.
So just so I'm clear, he can use the Bobcat to actually excavate next to the house, but it's going to be several inches, and then kind of hand broadcast the sand from there. Is that what we're thinking, team? So that it doesn't get piled up or?
Yeah, or with hand tools of some sort.
Yeah. I mean, Sam, when you're on site, is there actually any areas that's pretty bare where that if you put it, it wouldn't impede existing vegetation?
Possibly on the other side of the house. So when you're coming up to where this area is, you kind of come up around, if you park out in the front, you come around looking from the street, it would be the left side of the house, right from this picture. There's a pretty open area, pretty wide open area, that to put that sand over there, it's not very well vegetated because it's kind of like on a weird kind of windswept spot,
Right.
right off the side of the house. So maybe off to that side over there wouldn't be a bad spot to put it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, putting it right behind the house where it's stockpiling it behind the house in any fashion, just ultimately probably going to drift right back down against the house, so.
Yep.
And actually, considering the fact that when the Bobcat comes in, it's going to be, I mean, that area on the left side looking from the street is the only way that they're going to be able to get the Bobcat back there in the first place. So the Bobcat's going to drive over that and disturb the sand anyways. So maybe to say like, hey, scoop it out, and then as you are backing out, just lay it down and flatten it out back exactly where you just drove over, and just spread it out evenly.
Okay. All right, do we have a motion?
And we can make motions with conditions as discussed, if that helps anybody.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
So moved.
Sophie,
Yeah, so what I'm going to suggest, let's do a motion, a second, further discussion, and then we'll vote on it. Because I think that might be the easiest way to make sure we've covered everything. So TJ, you've made the motion.
Yeah,
Second,
Okay, we have a second. Brad, you seconded the motion. Okay, further discussion. So I think the conditions we talked about was the Bobcat is limited to removing the minimal amount of sand to expose the existing shingles, and then to disperse the sand in such a way as to not disturb or impede the growth of existing vegetation.
And then did we want to do the survival percentage for the replaced sand, or or replace vegetation or relocated.
Yeah, I mean, what's it? So it's open for discussion. If we want to include that, we can certainly do that. I mean, this seems like more routine maintenance.
Yeah,
Somebody else would have just probably done this, Sam, and not even bothered to come to the commission, but I could give them high marks for that, but. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, may I suggest that we leave it up to the conservation agent to determine what is the right thing to do out there? And if it is not correct, then she should bring it back to the commission.
Well, it'll be in violation of the RDA anyway at that point, so. Okay, so
I don't
Sam,
think
do
we
you-
said anything about the hand tools. You said that to distribute it so as not to impede, but were we gonna mention hand tools? Just so he knows he's not supposed to use the Bobcat? I'm
Well,
not
I
too
think
specific.
Sam seemed to think that the pathway in with the Bobcat may be a very viable area to disperse the sand as it's
yeah, and then,
exiting.
if it gets distributed back into that area with the Bobcat, and then just to use hand tools to rake it out.
Okay.
And I do
Okay,
have that in my notes.
Could I just sort of add one more condition, or it's just that any areas disturbed by the equipment have to be replanted in some fashion by whatever it is?
Right, yeah, and that's actually a typical one, isn't
Restored,
it, Jim, that we usually put in RDAs, that areas of vegetation or sand that get disturbed should be restored back to
okay.
roughly what they were.
Sam, you're able to decipher what we're all talking about? Or do you need any further
taking notes.
clarification?
Yeah,
Okay. All right, well, why don't I take a roll call vote? All those in favor say aye. Brad,
I,
Diane,
Aye.
Dan,
Yes,
TJ,
Yes,
Pete,
Yes,
and the chair votes yes as well. Okay, thank you, Sam. Okay, the next one is 287 High Road. This is for an RDA. The work to remove vegetation in a buffer zone to gain access to a roof for repairs. Sam, can you walk us through that one?
yes, so this is at the Dole Little House on High Road, right next to the boat launch at the bridge. So they are just looking to, they're looking to replace the roof shingling. But in order to get access to the roof shingling, they're gonna need to do some vegetation removal, in particular around the back side of the house. And most of the house appears to be in buffer zone. There's a spot of marsh that kind of extends out towards the backside down a pretty steep slope. So they're gonna need to do some vegetation removal in order to get access to the roof. Unfortunately, a lot of the vegetation is, or invasive species, it's a lot of like tree of heaven and stuff like that back there. Part of the narrative that was submitted did note that they are planning on doing, and I spoke to somebody about this last year, they're planning on doing a invasive management over in that area. They're planning on coming in at some point with a notice of intent to do invasive management back there. So this is just kind of like a preliminary part of that, or like, you know, prior to doing that, they need to get the roof fixed right now. So, but they are going to come in with that later. It is a lot of buffer zone work, but it's, for the most part, it's all like lawn, where like the scaffolding and everything is gonna go is a lot of lawn, or like ornamental plants in the sort of front part of the house where the driveway is, and all of the staging and material stockpiling is all going to be in the driveway. It's a gravel driveway right now, so there's gonna be no vegetation disturbance for that.
Okay, Sam, do we have a presenter for the petitioner?
We do have, I do see Christina here. I don't know. Christina, if you wanna unmute and chat with the commission, you are more than welcome to.
Yes, hi, I'm here. Samantha did a great job giving the overall summary. Thank you. Yeah, so on the docket this year is the roof replacement. And so like she said, there's 2 spots in particular where we need to remove some vegetation to set up some staging. All of the clearing is going to be done above ground. It's going to be done in-house by our landscape manager. We are going to remove the debris and dispose of it properly. And then do the roof shingles, all of the storage we've talked about. We met on site and we talked about where the contractors are going to park and where they're going to put up their dumpster. And it's all going to be within that gravel area. And then sometime in the very near future, so this is kind of just like a stopgap to essentially access the roof. And then we are actually going to take a deep dive into the invasive species that are over on the eastern edge of the lot to really try to tackle those and coming up soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, questions from the members? Let me go around. Brad, any questions on this one that you have?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Diane, any questions?
This was a very complete application. It was a good application, so now I know.
Dan, any questions?
No questions.
Thank you, Dan. TJ,
Nope, no questions.
thank you, TJ. Pete, any questions?
No questions, thanks.
Okay, and the chair has no questions. Sam, do you have any follow-up questions before we decide what we want to do?
I do not, and honestly, I don't even really think that there is too much need for any erosion control, really. There's not going to be much ground disturbance. And it's far enough off of the slope. The slope kind of starts right about in this area, so it's far enough off over here. It's far enough off the slope that I don't really think there's any need for erosion control either.
Okay, so we're looking at an RDA with no conditions.
Yes, so that would be a -2 with.
Okay. All right, do we have a motion on this matter?
So moved.
Motion for an N2 or second Pete's.
Okay, we have it. So who made the motion? Who was it? Did TJ, did you make the motion for a negative
Pete did.
determination? Oh, Pete did.
Pete did.
Okay. And Brad, you're seconding the motion.
Correct.
Just want to help Sam when she's doing her minutes here.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
Uh,
Mr.
all right. I'm going to do a roll call vote. Okay, TJ,
Yes,
Pete,
Yes,
Brad,
Aye.
Dan,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes,
and the chair votes yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Continued public hearings, 42 Middle Street for work to construct a single-family home with a septic system and wetland crossing for driveway installation. I think this matter here, we've been before the commission. We've done a site visit on this. Actually, I know that Mary and Sam and I had talked about this earlier in the week while we were reviewing the agenda. And we decided to put it first because it's better. This was one of these that had to be re-advertised, as I recall. So, Sam, why don't you just give a recap of Mary's discussion so that the board is familiar with Mary's thoughts on this?
Yeah, so there was some discussion during the site walk for the wetland crossing, that because there's a stream crossing, when we were initially looking at it, the width of it was kind of a point of concern, and whether it triggered the need for a habitat evaluation or not. We actually have gotten some new information. And Kristen, I think you sent me the electronic version a couple days before I got the paper copy. So it's been in there for at least a week now, I believe, maybe a little bit more. We have the wildlife habitat evaluation and a pretty extensive, let me see if I can bring that one up too. New information for that one, a new kind of narrative that Kristen sent out, and I can let.
So Sam, it did reach the threshold or it didn't? For a, Oh, excuse me, a wildlife.
So I think, Kristen, did the stuff
Um,
send me that, I don't think it actually reached that threshold, but you,
but regardless, we did it.
yeah, so the wildlife
so-
habitat evaluation was done, but
Okay. All right. Well, Kristen, do you want to give us the 5-minute recap? And
we have in here now too, Kristen, as well. I don't know if you just saw that.
What's that?
okay,
Did you say Charlie's here?
Charlie is here, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
that was Mary's really only question, whether it reached the threshold or not, as I recall, Sam. Is that your
Yeah.
recollection?
Yeah,
And,
there was that, and there were also the comments from DEP about the utility connections as well.
Okay. All right, well, why don't we give a 5-minute recap by the applicant, then we'll open it up to the commission members.
Charlie, do you want to do that or do you want me to do it? Oh, you're still muted.
Yeah, I would be specific on just addressing the DEP comments.
Oh,
from my
okay, okay.
perspective.
All right, so as far as the DEP comments go, their first comment was how much bank alterations proposed for the installation of the crossing culvert. And our response was, the existing inland bank on the lot is approximately 200 feet. We're proposing to install a 20-foot wide driveway crossing, which will result in the alteration of 40 linear feet of bank. Second comment was, how would utilities be constructed through the crossing? Our response was that the only utilities crossing are electric and telecommunications, and those would be through a PVC conduit. And those are reflected on the plans, the revised plans we submitted. Third comment was asking for details and description of the information and how performance standards are met as they relate to temporary alterations. We provided sorry, a point by point listing of each of those performance standards and how those were met or are being met. So that's the DEP comments section. Did you have another issue you wanted me to review?
Why don't I do this? Let me just put a stop for the moment. Let's see if we have any questions from
Okay.
the members. Brad, any questions on this?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to recuse myself due to a personal involvement with the applicant's agent.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Diane, any questions?
No, one other thing that Mary had mentioned was the width of the stream. I think they measured it to be about 6 feet, which was addressed, and
Right.
they've widened all that, and it was a good site plan revised and everything. So I don't have any questions.
Thank you, Diane. Dan, any questions?
No,
Thank you, Dan. TJ, any questions?
No, Diane said the same thing I was gonna.
Pete, how about yourself? Any questions?
Yeah, ditto. It's about the stream crossing.
Okay, thank you. And the chair has no questions. Sam, any follow-up questions from you?
I do not have any questions. And I don't see any hands going up from anyone. But I'll wait for that until we actually announce public comment as well, so.
Okay, well, I think at this point, it's open to public comments. Do we have any public comments before we move to either continue or close the public hearing?
I do not see anybody.
All right, no further comments from the public. Do we have a motion? What's the pleasure of the commission? We can move to continue this, move to close the public hearing, and take final action on this. Do we have
Motion
a
to
motion?
close.
Okay, do we have a
Second.
second? Okay, so Pete made the motion, Diane seconded. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. TJ?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Brad? Excuse me, Brad, you recused yourself. Dan?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So the public meeting has been closed, the public hearing has been closed. Do we have a motion to issue an order of conditions on this with the usual conditions?
I'll move to issue an order of conditions with the usual conditions. I mean, the site plan had most of the conditions.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so Diane, you made the motion. TJ, you seconded the motion. Okay, I'm gonna roll call vote. TJ?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Brad? Excuse me, Dan?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, so it's 5 yes, one recusal. All right, now, Sam, what do you need from us other than you have the filing, you have our comments, you have your usual conditions that we add to the order of conditions? Do you have anything?
I don't need anything else from you guys. I should be able to get this issued with DEP sometime this week, tomorrow or Thursday, and I'll get a copy to the applicant, to Hancock, and should be pretty quick.
All right, great. Well, thank you, Kristen. Thank
Thank you
you,
so much.
Charles. Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for your time.
Okay. So the next item, 330 3rd Street, for work to install a driveway to provide on-site parking with associated site work including within the 33rd Street right of way. Sam, we did a site walk on this property. You want to give a quick recap on that?
So I'm gonna do, I will do a quick recap, but just to let you know, I did get a message from Tom earlier. He is going to be requesting a continuance. They're working on getting some representation for the applicants, or some additional representation. So they are going to be continuing tonight.
Okay.
But just to throw out the recap of what we did at the site walk, we took a look at everything. For the most part, it was just all kind of coverage of where the mitigation plantings were gonna go, the location of the driveway. There weren't too many, there's not gonna really be any alteration of the right of way. There's a asphalt bib around the sewer connection. None of that's gonna be touched. I believe they're just going to be maybe adding some material around it just to kind of level it out for access. There were some comments from Tom about invasive species on the property. There's some bittersweet growing out there. And there was a comment that they would be willing to accept a condition to do invasive species management. And we've also gotten the natural heritage letter back from Natural Heritage. And there was a no take letter issued so long as the applicant is aware that any work that gets done, if it's done during certain times of year, and I can't remember exactly what the dates are now, but if it's done during certain times, pretty much in like the height of summer months, that they basically need to be willing to have a shorebird monitor out there to monitor the work and its impact on the nesting shorebirds in the area. On that note, the applicant is not planning on doing any work during shorebird nesting season. They're planning on trying to keep everything outside of that.
And Sam, you shared your field notes with the members?
With the commission, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was in an email last Wednesday, I think, maybe, or Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, I certainly
Wednesday,
received it.
yep.
Yeah. So what I'm going to suggest is we have a request for a continuation Did he come up with a date? Does he want to go to the September 20th date, Sam?
He does want to continue to the 20th, yes.
Okay. So do we have a motion to continue the public hearing to September 20th, 2022?
So moved.
Second,
Second,
Okay, TJ made the motion, Dan seconded. Okay, roll call vote. TJ,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Brad. Brad, yes, you're in
Yes.
this one. Dan,
yes,
Diane,
yes.
and the chair votes yes. Okay, thank you.
We do have a hand up for that one. The attorney representing the abutters has her hand up, and I don't know, because we're continuing without.
Yeah, we're not entertaining really any comments at this point. You were giving a recap of your,
Yeah,
at the continued hearing of September 20th, all parties will be afforded time to speak, either for or against the project. All right, moving on. Sam, want to give us a quick update? I know that 140R Main Street, where are we at on that and continue?
so Rob has continued that one as well to the 20th, or he's requested a continue to the 20th as well. That is pending a hydrology study.
Okay. Well, rather than go into any more detail, because we'll hear it all again when on the 20th. Do we have a motion to continue the public hearing on this matter on 140R Main Street to the September 20th, 2022?
So moved.
Okay, second.
Second.
Second,
Okay, Brad made the motion, TJ seconded. Roll call vote, TJ,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Brad,
Aye.
Dan,
yes,
Diane,
yes.
and the chair votes yes. All right, thank you. Okay, well, you know what, so far, Sam, your new schedule and agenda is working swimmingly. We're at 7:52 and we have a 8 p.m. public hearing.
So if we want to take a minute to go over the agenda or the meeting schedule real quick.
That would be great.
that
That would be great.
That we have. So I will
You
share
could pull that up. Great. Thank you, Sam.
So again, this was much like our fantastic new agenda that we have. A lot of comments and discussion that I had with Bob about some procedural stuff. And one of the things that we discussed was meeting date schedule. So this was actually pulled from one similar, this is almost exactly like what Ipswich does. So this is a draft of the 2023 meeting schedule and deadlines. So this outlines every single one of our meetings for all of 2023. I also included 2024 because some of the deadline dates are in 2023 and they're very late. So I just threw that one on there. So up at the top, it's got all of the headlines, meeting dates, all on Tuesdays, new submittal deadline dates, again, all on Tuesdays, supplemental information deadline dates, typically on Tuesday, but for early or holiday dates, they're going to be on Thursdays. Legal ads are always published on Monday, except for this one down here, which I'll talk about in a second, and then some notes. So if there are any early deadline dates due to holidays, they're outlined or they're highlighted in yellow with the holiday that corresponds to it. So for instance, things, and I kind of took a little bit of liberty with this one to determine the early deadlines. So for something like Memorial Day, for instance, all of the early deadlines are all 3 weeks ahead. Typically, we have a 14-day deadline. With holidays, I've set it to 3 weeks ahead. The day of the week change for early deadlines for supplemental info moving to the Thursday prior is for mostly for just things like, so Memorial Day, I know it's a big holiday weekend, it's a big travel weekend, a lot of people are away. So for that one, that gets moved up to Thursday. Some of them, things like President's Day and stuff, I just kept it at 7 days because President's Day is not a big travel holiday. So for things that aren't big travel holidays, I kept it at that 1 week deadline. And then things like, there's one, I believe 4th of July, there's kind of a funky, I actually skipped one of the, I took out one of the meetings in July because the 4th of July is a Tuesday and that would be our first meeting. So I just took that one out entirely because I'm assuming that no one is going to want to meet on the 4th of July. And I don't think I can because it's a holiday and the offices are closed. And then down to this one down here. So this one's a little bit funky. This first meeting in January 2024 has some weird deadline dates. So that one has the 3-week early new submittal. It's got the 2-week or the week and a half early supplemental info. But unfortunately, the Monday in the week prior to that meeting is Christmas Day, and I don't believe the paper runs on Christmas Day. So I just bumped this up to the Thursday before that. It doesn't really matter as long as the legal ad gets posted no less than 7 days prior to the hearing date. It's not an issue. So if it gets posted earlier than that, that's fine. So I just bumped that one up a little bit so that we're not worrying about whether the paper is running and if we get it in time and all that. So just to avoid a potential issue. And then just some notes up here that meeting times, dates, locations are subject to change or cancellation. And then for the most up-to-date information, they should look at the webpage or get in touch with me. And I think that is about it for that one. And I actually have, and I did not save it into the Dropbox, but the final, so prior to this, I had been releasing quarterly a meeting schedule. I had been releasing it every 3 months, following 3 months. So for instance, this one, this schedule ends in September is the last one that's listed. So then the next schedule would come out for October, November, and December. I have a similar schedule set up in the same format for those final 3 months of this calendar year, with the same sections and everything, that all have the same stuff. And probably at the next meeting, when we do the bylaw workshop, I'm going to talk about if we want to schedule another bylaw workshop for that time frame, but we can talk about that later. So the new, or the 4th quarter schedule for this year is showing up, is going to be put out in the same format as this, with the early submittal deadlines and everything, to start easing people into it before we hit the ground running in 2023.
Thank you, Sam. This is excellent work. It's a lot of work, and I think this is going to go a long way in helping all the applicants hit the deadlines, and not have you under the gun, Sam, at 6 o'clock on a Thursday before a Tuesday meeting, trying to amend the agenda. And that, but no, excellent work and a lot of hard work on this, and certainly on the complaint form and the new formatted agenda. I mean, thank you very much. Great work. All right, any quick questions? We got 1 minute to kill. Any accolades for Sam and all her hard efforts?
I accolade.
Sam.
I
All right.
actually. I
Great
just have one
job, Sam.
question. If they don't meet the supplemental deadline there, then they're not on the agenda. Is that like a hard line?
Ultimately, it is up to the discretion of mainly myself and the chair, to determine whether, if somebody turns something in on Wednesday, can we still accept it? At that point, if somebody brings something in on Wednesday, Wednesday morning, would probably make a really hard cutoff for Wednesday afternoon. But if somebody brings something in on Wednesday, I can just get in touch with Bob and say, hey, you know, so-and-so sent me this. They were a few hours late. Do we want to accept it? But the idea for the supplemental info thing is that, and a lot of times, especially recently, we've been getting stuff like on the day before the meeting or sometimes the day of the meeting. On occasion, I get stuff during the meeting. It comes in very late and it doesn't give you guys a lot of time. You know, nobody wants to spend their entire weekend looking over this stuff. And that's really what it kind of forces you guys to do. If we get it late on a Thursday and I send it over to you, you know, it's kind of stinks to have to be looking over it on the weekend, but so ideally this will prevent that from happening and give you guys more time to adequately look over and review any new information. Because sometimes a revised plan can be like a huge revision. It's not just like a, oh, we threw this in right here, we changed one thing real small. So
If it's minor in nature, Sam and I'll put our heads together. My tendency is we have a schedule, it should be met, but there's always an exception.
Right.
And Sam will make a recommendation, but I think the guideline would be, it better be very minor in nature, so it doesn't require a lot of work on the part of the members, but. All right, Sam, thank you. Why don't we go on to open our public hearing? It's 8:02. 68 Green Street, Lot 1, for work to construct a single-family dwelling with a septic system and utilities. Now, there's two lots at 68. There's actually Lot 1, Lot 2. Sam, what's your preference? I think we just do these one at a time.
Yeah, so they're pretty much the same exact thing on both of them. They're actually almost exactly the same. It's just two different lots. They're just constructing new houses on them with the associated site work, and like the septic and everything. I would say maybe Maureen, if you can do the 10-minute rundown on the general idea of both of them, and then maybe go into specifics on each one. Go into specifics on Lot 2 when we get to Lot 2. Instead of going over the whole entire spiel twice.
So, Sam, one quick question before Maureen starts. You now have a DEP file number on both of these filings.
Thank you. I almost forgot about that.
Well, you had told me it earlier today, so.
Yes, so they both got DEP file numbers earlier this week or maybe late last week. The file number for Lot 1 is 0501389, and the file number for Lot 2 is 0501391. And when I was checking earlier today, I still have not seen any comments from DEP. I don't know if there are any new ones. I haven't checked since earlier this afternoon, but we don't usually get them that late in the day, so.
Did you receive the natural heritage letter on these?
I don't believe there should have been a need for one. The natural heritage letter is only necessary if they're in priority habitat areas, which I don't believe these are.
Okay, great. All right, Maureen, welcome. Maureen, what we want is your best 10-minute performance here to convince us that we should issue an order of conditions.
All right, I'll do my best.
Okay, thank
Would
you.
you like me to bring in the plan or do you do that, Sam?
You can share it if you want. It's usually a little bit easier if you do, because then you don't have to tell me where to go.
Sure, I will do that. Okay, so we filed a notice of intent with the commission to construct a single-family dwelling, deck, septic tank within the 100-foot buffer zone. So the 100-foot buffer zone, if you can see my arrow, follows across here. Some of the commissions may remember this project. This is part of the Farmview Lane subdivision. So it's a 3-lot subdivision. The roadway and the drainage, which is located here, was approved in December of 2020. So the wetland boundary and the resource areas were reviewed under that filing. The 50-foot buffer is shown right here. So as you can see, we're substantially far away. Essentially, the back part of the dwelling slightly encroaches within the 100-foot buffer zone. We do have an isolated wetland located here. And again, we're outside the 50-foot. And here are the erosion controls along the side yard lot line in this area. And I can open it up to the commission with any questions or concerns.
Okay, Brad, any questions at this point? Brad, you're on mute if you have a question. Okay. Diane, any questions?
No.
Dan, any questions?
I just kind of wonder if you could characterize whether this is, these are the same locations for the leach fields that were part of the original submission. I mean, they weren't the final location. I'm just wondering if things changed much or.
In
If
terms
it's-
of the leach field, so as I mentioned, this is the septic tank. The leach field for this lot is located here. This site had some challenging soils, like a lot of Newbury, the town has. So in terms of citing the leach field, it's in the approximately the same location as when we originally came to the commission for the subdivision.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Dan. TJ, any questions from our end?
No questions.
Thank you, TJ. Pete, any questions?
So just for clarification, Maura, the concern here is the deck. That's correct, not the foundation of the house?
So the foundation of the house, this bump out here, that's within the 100-foot buffer zone as well as the deck. So when we filed the notice of intent, because a portion of the house is located within 100 feet, we just included the whole house.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Okay, and I have no questions. Any questions from the public? Anyone have a raised hand? Sam or Maureen, excuse me. Do you have any further you want to add before we open this up to the public?
No.
Mr. Chairman, this is Brad. If you could, Maureen, do you have a locus plan of this property?
So
Upper left-hand corner?
yeah,
Yeah,
this just shows the lot one. So this right here is the cul-de-sac for the roadway.
Mhm.
But I
Yeah,
don't have a.
It doesn't show that on there. So I'm just a little confused seeing two lot ones on this and a lot two.
So how about I trace you the lot one property line? Maybe that'll help.
That
So
might be
right-
helpful.
Right here is the lot one property line that follows up, So right here is lot two, and right here is lot one.
And what is the lot two shown on the left-hand side near the resource area impacts?
So what I can do is I can show you lot two, if that may make it easier. This is, the lot itself is an odd configuration, okay? And a lot of
Clearly.
that had to do with the fact of being able to find a spot where we could do the deeps and perks for the leach
Yep.
field. So
Got it.
that's a lot one. So I'm just gonna bring in lot two quickly, just maybe it might clarify the lot. So here's lot one, where this is lot one's leach field, which I
Right.
was just circling on the other one, okay? Lot two, I'm going up the driveway to lot two, and here's lot two.
Understood. Now, much
that
better,
make-
much
Okay.
clearer picture. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission before we open it up to the public?
No.
Okay, thank you. Sam, do we have any raised hands from the public at this time?
We don't have any public at this time, so no,
Well, so,
everybody has left the building.
well, there's nothing wrong with that. Well, so what's our pleasure? Do we move to close the public hearing? Is there a motion to close the public hearing? We have no
So
further
moved.
questions?
So
Okay,
moved.
Okay, so Brad made the motion, TJ seconded it. All right, I'll do a roll call vote. TJ,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Brad,
Aye.
Dan,
Yes,
Diane,
Yes,
and the chair votes yes. All right, now that we've closed the public hearing, what is our pleasure? Sam, you know what? Let's just swing back to you. Do you have any follow-up comments or questions that you want to bring up?
Hey, Mom.
Yes.
I don't, honestly, this one, it's very straightforward and I mean, for the most
Yes.
part, most of the,
No, Mom, I'm in a meeting right now. I'm in a conservation meeting.
Pete, you're still on, not muted.
Okay, let me catch back with you tomorrow, okay? Okay, very good. Okay, I love you. Bye-bye.
Love you too, Pete.
Oh, guys, I'm sorry.
I know, Pete,
99-year-old
better than barking dogs, Pete, better than barking dogs.
All right, yeah, so this one's it's pretty straightforward. You know, there's honestly really not a lot of impact to the resource areas in the first place. They have a really good erosion control line and everything, and they're even providing some protection to non-jurisdictional wetlands, which is great, so.
Okay, well, thank you, Sam. Pete, do you have any other questions? I just kind of opened it up for
You're
wrap
muted.
up questions.
My apologies, dealing with my 99-year-old mother. No, I'm.
God love
thank you.
her. No, okay, thank you. All right, do we have a motion to approve this issue and order of conditions?
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
second,
Okay, Brad moved, Diane seconded. Okay, any further discussion before we take a vote?
Just a quick question. If DP just gave a number now, did they send any questions or any information,
We have not gotten any comments back from this one. And again, it's pretty straightforward, so I would be
Yeah.
really surprised if they had
That's
a lot.
okay. Yeah.
Thank you, TJ. Okay, roll call vote to issue an order of conditions on. So I guess the question is, you've presented both 68 Lot 1 and 68 Green Street Lot 2, Maureen. Why don't we vote on each lot individually, just for the record? Does that make sense to you, Sam, or to the commission?
Yeah, we definitely, I mean, we
does.
definitely,
Yeah,
actually, why don't we vote on lot 1 now? So that's file number 1389. Vote on that one now, because technically we haven't actually opened the hearing for lot 2 yet.
Yeah, that's a very good
Vote on
point.
Lot
Yeah.
1 and then
Okay.
officially open the hearing, close it, no comments, the whole 9.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second, to issue an order of conditions on lot 1. Hearing no further discussion, I will take a roll call vote. TJ,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Brad,
Aye.
Dan,
yes,
Diane,
yes,
and the chair votes yes. All right, hey, Sam, let me know if Mary joins the call at some point, just so I don't, overlook her. All right, 68 Green Street, we'll continue a public hearing. 68 Green Street, Lot 2, to work to construct a single-family dwelling with septic system and utilities. Maureen gave us an overview for both. Maureen, I would quit while you're ahead right now, but if you have any further comments,
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
okay.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, let's just open it up to questions. If we have none, then we'll consider a motion if that's okay. All right, any questions on lot 2? Let me just go around and ask that. Brad, any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, Diane, any questions?
no,
Dan, any questions?
No, thanks.
TJ,
Nope.
Pete,
All set.
and the chair has no questions. All right, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Brad and TJ on that. Okay, roll call vote. TJ,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Brad,
Aye.
Dan,
Yes,
Diane,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. All right, now do we have a motion to issue an order of conditions?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call vote. TJ,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Brad,
Aye.
Dan,
yes.
Diane,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Maureen, you're all set. I would just talk to Sam and good luck.
Great. Thank you for your time this evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, well, team, this is yeoman's work here. We're at 8:16 and we've got a lot of work done. Sam, because public hearings are certainly more important, we can move up our administration review because it's really internal on our part, but why don't you give us your update and we'll start from there and then we can have a kind of a brainstorming or open discussion with the members.
All right, so I'm gonna, since it's probably going to be a lot quicker, and I'm not quite done with it yet, so I'm not like totally looking for a lot of comment on it quite yet. Just one more quick procedural thing. So I have also started working on a submittal requirement checklist. So just some quick notes up at the top that the guide outlines general submittal requirements and steps in the submittal process for new filings. And for requests of all different kinds, pretty much all of the requests that we can get, or submittals that we can get. And then a note again, because I have this all over the place, that complete submissions are the only ones that will receive hearing dates. And that submittal by the deadline does not guarantee your hearing date will occur on the corresponding hearing. Oh, I should probably reword that. That doesn't sound very good. Anyways, and that, you know, a note that completeness is determined at the discretion of the agent and or the chair. So what is that? I kind of started working on this earlier yesterday and today. So it goes over all of the submittal types and request types, RDAs, NOIs, ANRADs, extension permits, certificates of compliance, and complaints. And I've gotten it most of the way done. So basically all I've done is step-by-step gone through the general submittal process. So what to do before you submit, when you're ready to submit, and after you submit for each item, and gone through the whole list. And this is, I'm going to save this, or I'm going to leave this in the Dropbox. It's already in there. I just put it in before I came up here today. So if you guys want to take a look at it, I'll definitely have this finished before the 20th. And then on the 20th, we can really kind of start going into more comments about it. At this point, I just need to finish up the certificates of compliance and the complaints checklist, which should go by pretty quick. But I just wanted to share that this is out there in the world, that we are working on it to hopefully have this ready pretty soon for people to use, just to ideally get more complete submittals and permits and requests and everything before they actually go to the commission. So there's that.
Sam, that's a lot of hard work on your part. What I'm going to suggest, you have that in our Dropbox.
Yes.
I would just suggest if anyone has any comments or suggestions, just send them directly to Sam. And I think that would be the same thing with the annual schedule. Just send, if you have a chance to review them, send them to Sam. But Sam, you're going to keep all that in the Dropbox until it's in final form and not,
Yes.
okay. That's what I suggest. Anything that's, until the commission approves the final draft, I would keep it in the Dropbox. And,
Yep.
okay, thank you.
All right, and just in case anyone didn't see my email from yesterday about a site walk, the email that I sent out yesterday, so Tom Hughes is going to be working on the trail construction plans and the notice of intent for 105 High Road. He is looking at anticipating that there's going to be a desire for a site walk. He is looking at trying to get a site walk scheduled earlier rather than later, so that we're not getting to the September 20th meeting and then waiting until October and whatnot to actually finish this up. So he and I spoke about this, and we floated the idea of Tuesday, August 23rd at 8:30 a.m. And I did hear back from 2 of you. Is there any desire for that, or anyone who's interested? Is that a good date and time?
That's good. for
Well,
me.
yeah, it works for me. Let's go around the
For me.
board here. So Brad, it works for you?
Yes, sir.
Diane, how about yourself?
Yep, I responded.
Oh, wow. Gold star,
All right.
gold star, gold
So
star.
did I.
But we can't tell anyone else.
Dan,
Yeah, I
As-
think it worked.
okay. And TJ, you're on board. Pete, how about yourself?
Yep, so just we'd be doing a site walk before we're having the applicant make a presentation, is that correct?
Right, yeah, just kind of like a preliminary thing, just so that you guys can see the site before, not for discussion or deliberation or anything, obviously. Just basically to give you guys an opportunity to see it and see the path that it's going to go through. There are gonna be a couple wetland crossings and stuff for it. I've actually already walked the path with Tom. Martha and I went out with him to go take a look at it. And it just to give you guys an opportunity to see it. That way we're not wasting time trying to schedule one later, get it done and out of the way.
Okay. Well, if everyone's in agreement, then it will be next Tuesday, 8:30, and we're going to meet at that address, Sam? Okay. Sam, it would be great to send out a little reminder notice to all of us. Once we reach the age of 60, we need all the help we can get.
I'm only
on
26
Mon-
and I'm already there,
Yeah,
so.
On
I second
Monday,
that.
yeah.
All right. So on to some communications that I've received lately. So one of the big ones is a it's a complaint. Whether or not it's a violation is entirely up to you guys. This one's a little bit weird, so bear with me. So I received a complaint from a resident stating that one of his neighbors had released domestic ducks into a pond the pond is primarily actually on town property, but parts of it extend onto, it appears, at least 2 or 3 private property areas. And according to the complaint, the ducks have caused damage to, so this was over like the last 2 years that the ducks have been out there. And the complaint was that these ducks have been causing damage to the vegetation around the pond, so much so that it's becoming noticeable and that there's concern for erosion and destabilization of the banks of the pond. I have tried to, I went out there, I went onto the town property to see if I could actually see anything. Unfortunately, from the town property, it is almost impossible to see anything. And it may be largely because a lot of it's dried up, so it's really overgrown. But without going onto private property, I can't really see anything. I actually, since it's partially potentially a domestic animal release issue as well, the police department has gotten involved also. And one of the officers has reached out to the complainant, and we are at the moment trying to work out some time that eventually the officer and I can go out and meet with the complainant and actually get a look at this in person. It's become quite a bit of an issue. And the complainant is very concerned about it. I have not, so typically with a violation, if it's something like someone has built something that they didn't have permits for, and it's very clearly like, it's on Plum Island, you needed a permit for it. I can see that, I can very clearly see it. I have means of seeing it without having to walk onto your property and trespass. I can write a letter and say, this is a notice of potential violation, you have to come in and talk to the commission. With this one, I reached out to the DEP circuit rider. The extent of jurisdiction that the commission has is to, first, we would have to determine that these ducts did in fact cause this damage. We have to make that statement and say, yes, this is what we found based on A, B, and C. Following that, we have to determine if the keeping of these ducts meets the agricultural exemption. As far as I can tell, it does not. The agricultural exemption really only encompasses commercial agriculture. So there has to be like a monetary benefit, a significant monetary benefit, and the property has to be primarily used for commercial agricultural purposes. As far as I can tell, that is not the case here. It looks like it's just some domestic ducks that somebody has on their property. And then after that, if the commission does determine that the exemption is not met, but the ducts are in fact causing this damage, then the commission can mandate restoration through an enforcement order. So I guess the big issue here is that, is this something that the commission feels is necessary to actually get involved in? Do commission members have any interest in, if we do want to get involved in it, in joining a site visit? I can request a site visit aside from the one that I'm working on with the police department, to have the commission go out as a group to take a look at the issue and try to make a determination as to whether we can get involved or whether it's something that we can say, yes, the ducks are causing this problem. So I'm gonna leave that one up to some discussion from you guys, and I realize it's kind of an odd.
Well, why don't I start? I'm looking at the definition of a domestic duck. And it says domesticated by humans and raised for meat, eggs, and down feathers. A few are also kept for show as pets or for their ornamental value. So that's the definition. I would suggest, Sam, that right now, if the police are investigating this, that's the first step, and we would wait for a report back from you on the outcome of that. But I think we're not the ones to make a determination whether this is an agricultural or a domestic use. We have an agricultural commission, as I recall, within the town. And I would certainly send it over there for their review to let them come back. Let's gather some facts at your level, Sam, before we get overly involved. The big thing is going to be is, how do you tell what ducks that fly in there or geese or swans that fly in there? I mean, it's kind of like the dog on the beach thing. It's who did what, when, and whatever. But that's just kind of my quick overview. So I would suggest, and I'm going to ask everyone their opinions, follow up with the police, let them come back to you with some conclusion. But certainly loop in the Agriculture Commission, and I would, and then come back to us if you want to do a site visit there. But the difference between low water mark right now during a severe drought versus where the normal water level is. Many times, I'm assuming quacking ducks is probably the biggest problem here. And but that's to be determined. Well, why don't we go right around the horn here? Pete, you've been at the end of the tail here. What's your wisdom on ducks?
I think your recommendation is perfect. Let some other people do some work and then Sam
Get
can
back
kind of
to
guide us.
Okay. TJ, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's way too early for us, certainly for me to vote to get involved in this without knowing a lot of other things. So I
No,
agree with the info hunting.
thanks, TJ. Brad?
Yeah, I think that this could be handled very easily with a conversation between the police department and the two parties that are involved, so as this does not rise to the level of a commission interface.
Thanks, Brad. Dan, any comments?
Yeah, it seems to me it's more of an animal control issue than anything else, that somebody's ducks, presuming we know who owns the ducks, their ducks are on somebody else's property. And, I don't know why we can't go to, or somebody, the police may go to the owners of the ducks and just say, you gotta do something with these things.
I agree fully, Dan.
That's-
Diane?
Yeah, that was my thing, Sam. Does someone show ownership of these ducks, or you said that somebody released ducks into
Yes,
the
so
public? So we don't even have an owner?
Right, so we do know who owns them. We do know where they hail from at this point. And the so I did speak to the officer that has taken this endeavor on. And he reached out to the complainant. He has started a conversation there. And he actually, when I spoke with him today, he said that he believed that it may be something that we could handle by advising the owner of the ducks that, we need to make sure that they are staying on your property. You need to make sure that you create some way to keep them there and prevent them from wandering off and going into places where they shouldn't be. Because unfortunately, it looks like the pond actually goes onto that person's property just a tiny little bit. So it seems like maybe they just said, hey, this is a nice free way for me to not have to build a pond for my ducks to enjoy their life in. And I'll just let them go here. So it may just be a case of, and honestly, if the ducks stop going after the vegetation, if they can be contained onto that property, then the vegetation will eventually let it settle. It'll come back on its own. It doesn't appear from the photos that I've seen, it doesn't appear that it is so significantly damaged that it won't be able to restore itself.
I have a question for our attorney. Do ducks have riparian rights when the water?
I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I'm certain that there's laws that tell you that you have to contain your domestic pets. There's laws about everything like that. So,
Yeah. So I think animal control, Newbury Police, and the Agriculture Commission need to figure this out. And we're the commission of last resort here, because I just don't know how the heck you could ever, ascertain responsibility for damage without viewing it, firsthand, and eliminating the natural waterfowl that's in this area seasonally. But all right, well, Sam, anything else? Any other? No, did he fill out a complaint form? That's
This was before the complaint form, so I'm going to give him a pass on that. It was before I had that established. So the complaint form is up on the website now, though, for anybody watching this later, with some instructions on what to do. So I have two more quick-ish kind of questions, mostly on what kind of applications somebody should do. So we received a call about some solar panels on Plum Island, somebody looking to have them installed, and operating on the assumption that I can't imagine having ground mounted solar on Plum Island is a super good idea.
They already exist, Sam.
There's ground mounted solar on Plum Island?
Yep, right off of Sunset Drive.
I didn't know that.
Yes,
Okay. Well, then I guess that's one thing. So what kind of, you know, for roof mounted solar, I would like to think that an RDA would be sufficient because there's not really a lot of impact, but it's kind of on that weird cusp of like upward expansion and or like, you know, second floor expansion or something, where that typically requires a notice of intent. But I feel like solar panels are kind of like a different, they're slightly less impactful, even with the scaffolding and everything. And maybe not necessarily something that has to be, you know, would warrant having a certificate of compliance required for it.
Sam, I can tell you from firsthand experience, after I built my house on Plum Island, I contracted with Boston Solar and they applied for an RDA and
Okay.
it was approved. There's no upward mobility. Very few of these require any scaffolding. They're primarily done either by ladders or by a crane or by hand. In my particular case, they were done by hand.
Okay, all right, but then I would probably say that if they're gonna be doing ground mounted solar, that would almost definitely require a notice of intent.
Sure.
because-
Well, Sam, what I'm gonna suggest is, why don't they can always start out as an RDA, then the commission
Right,
can
Correct.
make the determination if it goes beyond the pale. And I'm just wondering what other precedents have been set or how DEP views this. You know, certainly we don't want to send a property owner down a pathway that ultimately we give them an RDA, but we know that DEP is going to take a different view and intervene.
yeah, and
So-
I don't know if, you know, if Pete or Dan, if you guys have ever seen these come through. Obviously I haven't since I've been here, I probably wouldn't be asking the question. So I don't know, have you guys seen this come through at all and gotten comments back from E DEP?
Not that I have not seen any problems with any of the RDA applications for solar installation. I mean, I think a real good question is, if it seems like the problem is people come in to put solar, they're gonna operate from a driveway or other disturbed area, and there's no impact at all. And why is it any different than putting new windows in your house? Which
Okay,
doesn't require anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you know what, Pete, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I would be of the same mindset, or, you know, if you're having your roof repair done, you know,
Yeah.
same sort of thing. It's a ladder
Right.
or a series of ladders.
So was that, Diane, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Brad, you said you saw them on the ground in Sunset. Do you know what the address was? Couldn't we check and see what they did, and we could check and see if DEP did anything?
I don't know what the address is.
Okay,
Probably
Well-
could find out at my daily walk.
not important right now, just a thought.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and they look like, Diane, excuse me, Mr. Chair, Diane, they look like they've been there for a number of years. I've been out here for 6 years and they predate me by at least another 6 years.
Well, I think what Sam is looking for is guidance whether any of this reaches a level that requires an RDA. So let's go right around. TJ, what's your thoughts? Dan and Peter brought up good points, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, the RDA is fine. I think that's the same as doing a roof or a window or things like that.
But I think both Dan and Pete was saying that
It doesn't
nothing really,
require-
it doesn't really require anything for a roof or solar. I
Correct.
hope I'm not misspoken, but.
so maybe more on the level of, you know, say, hey, can you know, talk to the contractor, whoever is doing the installation, and say, can you just let me know, like, what kind are you gonna be using scaffolding?
How
Is
it's
it
gonna
just
be installed?
installation or something, and if it looks like it's going to be, you know, it's gonna be at most like a ladder or a little bit of scaffolding or something, then it may be something that can actually maybe get handled with an administrative approval.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, Sam, I would agree with that completely. I would suggest that maybe a discussion between the building inspector and the conservation agent is prudent, and we allow the conservation agent to do her job and give her the latitude to decide whether or not something rises to the occasion that it needs the Concom approval or review.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Diane, what's your thoughts? That sound okay?
Yeah, I mean, especially it's not on the ground. You mentioned something that might be on the ground.
Yeah,
So-
I don't know, when we got the call, I don't know if it was gonna be ground mounted or roof mounted, but I would think that if it's gonna be ground mounted, that, I mean, at the bare minimum, depending on what's in the area, that they would have to do an RDA, probably similar to the generator installation process.
That was my thought. How's it different from like a generator or
yeah.
something like
Yeah,
that? If
and
it's on
I
the
guess it
ground, if it's on a
depends
roof.
on the size, yeah, the size of the panels and, you know, what it's going on top of.
So Sam, I think the trigger for you would be what type of equipment is going to be needed to undertake the task. Dan, you want to add any further
Well,
comments on this?
It simply has to do with ground impacts.
Right.
If there's no, I mean, I think Sam, first of all, I'd say that the installer should provide some plan, and, you know, particularly where he's going to access the site and any ancillary impacts to the vegetation or the dune. If there are none, I don't see why it isn't administrative approval, but maintaining some sort of a paper trail of some kind. This is what they're supposed to do. Maybe you go out there and make sure there's no violation or anything like that. That's my take.
Thanks, Dan. Pete, any follow-up questions from you on this?
Pretty good right now, thanks.
Okay. All right. Well, Sam, I think you get some direction. Don't come to us unless you need us.
All right. And then I just have one more quick question and then I will be totally done. So Martha and Peter and I, Peter Bennett, Building Commissioner Peter, met with the owners of the Sunset Club today. So they currently have an open order of conditions for the actual creation of what they have out there. They are now looking to, in the area right on the front corner of the boulevard and Old Point Road, Drive, whatever it is. They are planning, so where the gas station was, I believe, that the building that the gas station was in, they would now like to try to create some enclosed space. So I know that we have kind of the threshold for amendments where they have an open order of conditions. If something's going to change and it's going to be less impactful, or, it's not really changing much, a minor modification is acceptable. Obviously, this extends beyond that. I wasn't really sure whether this would be too much, I guess, to do as an amendment to the original order. If they even do it, they're still kind of in the planning process. They were just meeting with us conceptually about it. But if they do plan on doing it, so I know like with Borrego, they elected to, because the change was so significant, DEP recommended that they go through an entirely new NOI process to do the access road. Where this is a pretty different, pretty significant increase in impact. Doing the amendment process is honestly a little bit faster. It would be a little bit faster for them. It would be a little bit easier, a little bit cheaper. But I didn't know if it quite passed that threshold of being an amendment or, do we want to see them come in with an entirely new notice of intent to build a new building where there currently is not one, but where there was previous impact? And
So,
Pete, I feel like you might have some.
so Sam, a minor amendment is out of the question in your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely would not come in, does not.
So this is either an amendment or it's a new notice is
Right.
what you're asking about.
Right.
All right, let's go around, TJ. What are your thoughts?
Well, I guess I would have to know what their proposal is
Right,
and what the change is going to be. And
Yeah, so it's what the concept plan that we got today was was construction of a new enclosed building and some deck space and everything. It would all be accessible and everything. And it would also be elevated for the floodplain. In roughly the same footprint that the original building was in before. I believe that building, there was a fire in it a couple years ago. And it burned down and they just elected to not rebuild it at all when they were going through the initial process. So now they're just looking to rebuild roughly in the same footprint of where it used to be.
I still think it's probably a procedural thing of what the better way to do it legally is. It'd probably be, maybe it's a little bit longer, a little bit more expensive, but in the end, it may be better that we've done it the right way and there's nothing that can come back to haunt them or us.
Yeah, I mean, I would think the level of plans are going to be the same, TJ, that they're gonna have to submit.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Essentially the
it,
same process, it's just cheaper to do an amendment.
yeah, so, my thought, and again, I'm just throwing this out there, if it comes in as an amendment, this commission's gonna decide whether it's an amendment, we have everything before us, or it should come in as an NOI. But Dan, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, we're talking in the abstract here, so it's,
Well, yeah, I mean, without knowing what's proposed, but what Sam just said, is they might get into lot coverage questions. If it's an elevated thing over sort of their outdoor area there now, then, I mean, I think that's almost a new story. New,
Pete, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think more information is needed before we can go anywhere
Yeah.
with this.
I think, good point. Sam, so you received some documents too, a rendering or something? Can you put whatever you got in the Dropbox, or is it not even?
It's honestly not even really like
Okay,
very conceptual stuff.
Okay.
Very rough ideas, and it was really just to kind of get some feedback from Martha and Peter and I on what the processes would be. And Martha had said that it would be considered a major amendment for the planning board, so they would have to go into a full public hearing for that. I believe Peter said that it's definitely at least going to have to go back in front of zoning for a modification to the original zoning approval. And then it sounds like honestly our process is probably one of the simpler ones for everything. I mean, an amendment goes into a full public hearing, full re-advertisement, abutters notifications, legal ad. It has to get sent to DEP. There's an appeals period for it and everything. So they do have to go into a full public hearing for an amendment. And I would be inclined to kind of push them more in that direction, because we can do conditions on an amendment.
yeah,
As
I
well.
mean,
It's not like an entirely separate lot.
it seems to me, I mean, as long as the abutters have a chance to speak and it's gonna be publicized and we can condition it. If it's more economical, I'm not opposed to that, but again, without having the package before us, it's hard to make that determination.
Okay.
So it's an open-ended, it's going to be scope of the project that's going to trigger it,
And I mean,
think.
really the purpose of asking questions like this for me is just, I mean, they were questions that I got today and I was like, instead of trying to coordinate with everybody in an email,
Yep.
just be easier to bring the questions up tonight as just a general idea and mainly just to get feedback, because we really don't want to waste people's time by saying, oh yeah, come in with an RDA for it, and then
Right.
have
Well,
people
well,
say,
that's why this agenda item is good to have,
yeah.
just to do this administrative stuff. All right, it is now 8:50 PM. Do we have any other business before the commission?
We have nothing under other business, and I have gone through my entire list of things. And we still don't have any more members of the public left, so.
All right. Well,
Make a
do we have
motion
a,
To adjourn.
okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. And Sam wants a roll call vote. I was schooled on Robert's rules, and that's embarrassing when your name's Robert. TJ, all those in
Yes.
favor say aye. Pete?
Okay.
Brad?
Aye.
Dan?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And the chair votes. Okay, thank you, everyone. This was.
Night, everyone.
Very,
Thank you.
very
Thank you.
well-run meeting, Mr. Chair, and
Well, Sam's new
Conservation agent.
format, Sam, 5 stars for Sam. She's done a lot of work in a week's time. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Good
Okay,
night.
thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.